people are really sick of advertising and lies. And if I'm just telling them my truth and I'm providing value and I'm not being pushy, we're so sensitive to that. In fact, people are more willing to listen to me online than coming into my showroom. 20 years ago, people would come in and be like, "Tell me about flooring." And I'd spend 2 hours telling them and, having that dialogue. Now they come in, they go, "Don't you sell me something. I already did my research online." Even though the research online is more jaded and marketed and blogs are purchased advertisements, but we don't really know that as consumers yet. We think that that's research. It's not,
Yeah.
but they come in, pretty protective and jaded. So,
This is Social Pulse Podcast Agency Edition, your go to guide to solving your biggest marketing agency challenges authentically. I'm your host, Mike Alton, and each episode is an honest and frank look at what agencies go through, from turning clients to tackling tech and ideas that you can apply to your own business. And now, the rest of today's episode. Welcome back to Social Pulse Podcast Retail Edition, where we're digging into the challenges, successes, and stories of social media community professionals in the industry, just like you. Subscribe to gain valuable insights that you'll be able to apply to your own work and social presence from every episode. If you ever wondered, though, why some social media posts seem to instantly connect with audiences while others fall flat, what if the secret to social media success isn't just about algorithms and hashtags, but about understanding the deeper psychological needs and motivations of your audience? Every day, retail marketers struggle to cut through the noise and make meaningful connections on social media, often focusing on surface level metrics while missing the fundamental human elements that drive engagement and conversion. Well, that's exactly what we're diving into today with our fascinating guest, Lisa Wells. Lisa brings a unique perspective to retail social media marketing, combining her master's in psychology and experience as a marriage and family therapist with her role as owner of Geneva Flooring, a successful retail flooring business in San Diego. As a former therapist who worked with diverse populations in schools, police departments, and halfway houses, Lisa now applies her deep understanding of human behavior to create compelling social media content and build authentic customer relationships. She's also served as president of the San Diego County Floor Covering Association and brings over a decade of retail leadership experience to our conversation. Hey, Lisa, welcome to the show.
thank you, Mike, for having me. This is fun.
So excited to have you here. Before we dive in, I'd love if you could share the story about how you transitioned from being a therapist to running a retail flooring business.
Well, actually, therapy was just a side gig. It was a passion project. I was in flooring since I was 18 years old in a family business. And I got my bachelor's in business with a minor in psychology. And I just loved to learn. So I was going back to school for, I was going to go for business for my master's in business. And I just found it so boring to study more inventory and marketing. So I went for what I was really passionate about, which was child psychology. And turns out they turn you into a therapist. So I loved it. So the program required an internship. I stayed on years past the internship was over, because then I was deeply embedded in the networks of the school system. So I was doing art therapy and anger management therapy with junior high and high school and elementary school kids. And I was running the programs and training people. Then I was working in the juvenile divergent programs. I was working at the police station and in the courthouse with minors that were taken away from their parents. So it was compelling work. And I was doing it 20, 30 hours a week for I don't know, maybe 4 years. But I stopped when I had kids of my own because I already had a full-time job. So I've definitely been able to implement the things that I've learned, obviously, in that time. And I don't combine and relate the two very often. Um, Weirdly, I think of them as so separate, but I absolutely use the psychology in team management and probably, my approach to marketing and um, creating relationships with customers and builders, more than in a sales way. I don't really think about it in that way, but I guess once you learn people and respect and listening skills, which is really what therapy is, um, empathy, then you use it in all facets of your life. I'm certainly using it with my 7 and 8-year-old daughters.
I can really appreciate that as a certified NLP practitioner and timeline therapy coach and hypnosis coach. I can appreciate everything that you're talking about. I know how these things just kind of bubble up and become just second nature in our
Uh-huh.
conversations. I see myself writing things like imagine when I'm trying to create persuasive copy because I know what that does to people. And you talked about marketing. I'm wondering how your background in psychology has influenced your approach to social media marketing.
You know, my marketing is so organic. It is so authentic. I have never written a script or created I think about what would be interesting for me. I wanna know about technical specs. How do I sell to my customers that I've been selling to for 20 years? They wanna know about performance. They wanna consider the pets and conditions of their home. They wanna talk about their own layout and their own design preferences. So, I'm just listening and then screening through my knowledge, editing, and giving them, the information in a digestible package. So, I don't really plan that for my social media either. I think about the questions that people ask me all the time, and then I do little snippets so that my same message could go out to a larger audience, and then they come back in and they can get it from me individually. But obviously, this is scalable, and I don't know where it's going to go long term. I don't make it for that. I don't know. I do it because I know that it's relevant, and my marketing team has been telling me that it's relevant. And obviously, like I am a brand, I'm a personality, so reading something on a page is not the same as thinking who the narrator would be. A picture's worth a thousand words. So I'd rather it come from my own voice, and I don't plan it. So I just come up with the questions and then I answer them. And I never do a second take. And I that's how I come up with it.
Well, that's great, though. I mean, that's a real fundamental truth of marketing and social media in particular. Marcus Sheridan coined the phrase, they ask, you answer. And that is exactly what you're doing. It is so important in all facets of content marketing. What do you think might be some common psychological principles that you see in play as you're creating this social content, you're seeing it resonate with customers? What do you think's happening behind the scenes there?
Well, I think that people are really sick of advertising and lies. And if I'm just telling them my truth and I'm providing value and I'm not being pushy, we're so sensitive to that. In fact, people are more willing to listen to me online than coming into my showroom. 20 years ago, people would come in and be like, "Tell me about flooring." And I'd spend 2 hours telling them and, having that dialogue. Now they come in and they go, "Don't you sell me something. I already did my research online." Even though the research online is more jaded and marketed and blogs are purchased advertisements, but we don't really know that as consumers yet. We think that that's research. It's not,
Yeah.
but they come in, pretty protective and jaded. So
So when it comes to social media challenges, how do you deal with those?
I honestly haven't had very many. And it's not in my personality to dwell or obsess on how I look or how many likes I got or I don't read comments. So what I'm delivering is what my marketing person wanted of me. I am dealing with the same insecurities as everybody else. I was 25 pounds heavier last year. So, I was constantly and I was turned 40 and bodies change. And so honestly, it is very hard to see yourself online and not have judgment. So I'm trying to come from and it takes personal work to come from a non-ego, heart-opening place that says no matter how many people are watching this, I'm just talking about things I know and I'm coming from a good place. So it's giving yourself grace, and I don't overanalyze people's acceptance or judgment of it. And I think that that's a key in making social media content because nobody likes the way they look or the way they sound. They don't sound smart. I'm flubbing right now. So it's important to get a good editing team. I tried for 5 years to create my own content without an editor. And the only way that I got the confidence to like say one big spiel and know that it was going to be edited. So then you have the confidence to just make it through to the end. And honestly, I only have generally about 30 seconds where I can talk before I start blacking out and being aware that the camera is watching me and everybody's watching me, and it's really only Tony, my camera guy, and maybe I have a person or 2 in the office, and so I start getting self-conscious. So, I think of the question, I wanna answer, I talk about it until I start getting nervous, and then I close, and that's why most of my media content is really short, and then the key to success is I don't ask for permission to edit. I trust that Tony's gonna cut out the places where I stutter, and then he posts it. I never approve or deny, reject anything. I just let him post it, and then I work on that self inner work of acceptance and love, self-love. And then I don't spend the time to see if anybody's saying mean things to me. I've literally never seen anything. Probably somebody has said something, but I do 3 videos a week, and I just gotta move on with my life. I'm a very busy business owner, mom, friend. So stay busy, stay confident.
That's a great perspective. I relate to that so much, mostly because I'm a perfectionist. So I force myself to do the edits and the retakes and the reshoots and the repetition so that what I go out is perfect. And I shouldn't do that. Your approach is so much better. You're coming across very authentic. Even now, you're not flubbing your words as bad as you think you are. You're fine. We're going to do very, very little editing here because there's really not that much to edit. You're doing a fantastic job, and I'm sure it comes across in your marketing. Folks, we're talking with Lisa Wells about how beneficial it can be for retail social media marketers to understand consumer and human psychology, even their own psychology. And I've got several more questions you aren't going to miss. But first, let me share the story of Fracture with you.
Fracture is a company out of Gainesville, Florida, founded on the belief that the printed image has a lot of power. We wanted to make it as absolutely simple as possible for people to take photos, from being buried in their camera roll on their phones to being something they can celebrate on their walls. Originally, we essentially were doing a lot of manual social media management. And then as the company grew, we started to try different platforms for social media management and marketing. Most of the ones that we used, we were somewhat satisfied with, but never found something that really addressed everything that we needed. We use Agorapulse for our social media marketing. It's really fantastic because it allows us to connect the marketing side of what we do with our customer support. We now use Agorapulse to easily assign a support request as soon as it comes in. Agorapulse has really allowed our company to expand and upgrade our social media management abilities. I think that smart marketers nowadays are constantly on the lookout for new companies like Agorapulse who are able to deliver the same kind of results in a leaner way that ends up saving you money.
So, Lisa, what would you say are some common mistakes that you see retailers making, other retailers, not you, in social media marketing, whether that's psychological or otherwise?
It's not starting. People say to me all the time, even in my office, I don't like to see myself on camera. Nobody does. It's not satisfying or fulfilling to any of us. And they don't start and they over edit. And then when they create content, they get stuck. And I did for over 5 years in the logistical content editing creation. I hired somebody, they didn't do it. I bought the program, I tried to teach myself. We are going to try to figure out who was going to do it. You could get a video edited for 30 to 50 bucks. So you got to find who that person is. Well, then how are you going to create it? Are you going to create it on your phone? Are you going to buy hardware, or you could buy the software? Are you going to send it through Vimeo? Well, then you run out of storage space because you have to buy a subscription. And are you going to send it through Dropbox? But that person doesn't like the pixelation, so then you've got to send it through the drive. So those logistics held me back for over 5 years before I posted a video, and still stop my YouTube channel from growing right now because I have 2 teams and they don't like how we convert and transport the videos and who's going to edit it. So now I'm trying to collect my raw footage so that it can be chopped up and packaged out in different ways. I'm like, I'm not getting younger. I should be able to reuse this stuff. I do an hour-long shoot. Most of it dies on the cutting room floor. So what I did, which changed everything 2 years ago, was hiring somebody to come into my space with a camera, and he calls me and he sets up a date, and he brings better lighting, which it was essential for me, and makes me look good and edits it out and gives me the confidence. And I just have a 3-hour filming window. and then I'm done for the month. And I have 3 posts a week. That is the only way this was gonna happen for me. I did 5 videos a year for 5 years, and not one of them saw my Instagram page because of the logistics and, rallying my team together. So once I got all that figured out, now I have a lot of posts, but I think people just need to start now and, um, spend the money that it requires to get the team to do it, if that's what they think will have a good result for them.
Yeah.
Because, like, do you need to spend $1,500 a month? Yeah, you do. That's a minimum that I've heard to get somebody to come out, create content, edit, and post and distribute, and that is a full-time job that requires a full-time team, hardware and software, and that never ever happened for me when I tried to save the money.
I love that you started by basically just blowing away limiting beliefs. If you think this is something that you're not pretty enough or communicative enough or whatever enough,
Yeah,
wrong. Just do
yeah.
it. Get yourself out there. That's going to
Yeah,
be
it's never gonna get,
huge.
like, easier, although creating content does get easier, accepting myself gets easier. My anxiety has gone down over time. I was so anxious. Do my filming at first thing in the morning. So, get my hair done, go to the gym, all of that, walk in, and I wanna film because I'm just getting more and more anxious as it goes. I like to get it out of the way and then get on with the rest of my day, so
Yeah, you're right. With that repetition, a lot of the anxiety will go away. I hate and did not want to do live video. Here I am, exposing my own limiting beliefs, right? But
yeah.
having done, hundreds of these podcast interviews, I'm sure I come across now as poised and calm and so on. Yet a lot of that's not true. That's
Yeah.
just through repetition and practice and that sort of thing. I just as a quick clarification, I'm curious. You mentioned Instagram. Is that primarily where you're pushing your videos, or are you on other platforms as well?
I don't touch it. So I I do Instagram socially in a small circle myself, so that's where I see m my posts, and I'm friends with my company, and my friends are friends with my company, and my some of my work peers, are friends with my company, so my videos are every I get a lot of feedback about my Instagram from my circle because the algorithm has me figured out, and um, so I'm famous in the flooring community when I'm trying to make these videos to sell floors to other people. And I'm like, none of these people are going to buy a floor from me. They're all in flooring. So it's more of, you know, I'm just famous in the flooring industry. And that's funny for all of us. Like, I will go to a convention, in another part of the country and in a women's luncheon, and they'll be like, "Oh, I saw you on the internet," or I'd be walking through a convention and be like, "You're the girl from the internet." It's funny because I set this out for sales, and instead I'm getting a lot of unwarranted or unsolicited attention from my peers. But it's good-natured, and I'm accepting it, and I'm accepting the love and praise because all people are saying is, "I wish I would have done it. I wish I was brave enough to start." Nobody's asking me how, because everybody knows why they're not doing it, because they don't feel secure about their image or, how well spoken they are. So, editing gives a lot of confidence.
That's a huge point that you just made because as marketers, we're creating content for our consumers and we get zero feedback from consumers about our content because they don't care. They're just consuming the message and then moving on or taking some action. They're never going to tell one of our sales reps that, you know what, I saw your video and, Lisa did a really fantastic job. I loved her script. They're not going to say that ever. So to get positive feedback from colleagues, that's where that's gonna come from, and I think that's huge. I know exactly how that goes
Well,
in the
yeah, we're
marketing
having a
industry.
blast with it. I sent one out last night and I was like, "Look at me selling your stuff." And like when I send it out to my reps when I'm featuring one of their products. I mean, we're all buddies. So
Yep.
sometimes they come into my showroom and I let them do a little blurb with my camera guy and we're just having a blast with it. So it gives some texture, but ultimately the credibility that I'm gaining with my customers, they're right, they're not gonna judge my delivery. They're trying to see, does this woman and her company, is it a brand that I can trust, and do they know what they're doing? And I think that message comes across pretty clearly. I do know what I'm doing, and I do speak eloquently about flooring, at least rolls off the tongue because I've talked to thousands of people about it. So, I don't know. I really am just trying to do good in my world, in the world, and that authenticity translates. So, it's not manufactured, so that's what they're looking for.
100%. Are there any specific tools that you found that have actually helped you implementing your approach to social media?
Just Tony Tony Hernandez, the social media guy. Uh, Honestly, having a person behind the camera that is calm and reassuring like you, Mike, and maybe gives you prompts, but either way is good energy, that helps a lot. But he's the one who's getting together the team of editors, the logistics. He brings the hardware like the camera and the, memory stick. Those little things are all what stopped me from posting, is that I didn't wanna look into the hardware and software and logistics. So, best thing I could do is say, hire somebody else to do all that unless you're really interested in it. But then that's your business. Like my business is flooring. I'm not going to take the time to figure out, how to edit. It just will never get across the finish line. I'm doing so many problems. Like, let me write training manuals, let me make a new banner. I just bought a new sign. Let's change our logo. I just bought another company. Like, let's target builders and designers. Like, that's where my attention's going. So I really
Right.
can't take the time and energy for media stuff. That's somebody else's passion, not mine.
Could not agree more. Folks listening, some of you might be in ownership, leadership roles like Lisa, and you should absolutely be doing what Lisa is doing. You outsource, you have team members that support you, and you focus on what you need to do to create that content and then move on to the more strategic and visionary aspects of your business. But I also know some of you listening are the actual practitioners, social media managers, other kinds of content marketers and so on. There's a lot of the things that our friend Tony here is doing that you can actually do yourselves. We talked about in some other episodes. I also
Absolutely.
love that you
That's what
mentioned
you guys can do is support us and make it easy. Convenience is everything. I am so busy. So the less points of contact, um, just the most implications for the next step. Like, don't wait. So he calls me, when can we get it on the schedule? We need more raw content. And other than that, I've been with him for over 2 years, and I can set it and forget it, and he only needs 1 day a month for me. So if I was telling, other advertising agencies, "You guys are everything," they're exactly the support that I need, is just reach out to me. I'm too busy to think about it and reach out to you. If you wait for me for content, um, we'll never get posts up. And I think that's where everybody gets stuck. They
Yeah.
they don't know what to do
Yeah.
next. So, Tony is not in flooring, so he's constantly giving me prompts. He's like, "Well, all of my customers, they wanna know, well, where did you start?" And he's like, "Put emotion into it. So, how does a new floor make you feel?" And, I'm like, if it has to do with flooring, I've talked to a customer about it. So, if he gives me a prompt, if he thinks like, "This is how I would shop my flooring, where do you start? What's the difference between good, better, and best?" So, he gives me those prompts, and I'll ramble on for an hour, but anything you could do to support the person and lower the anxiety of how prepared they need to be. When I've worked with other friends in the last year, realtors and things, trying to encourage them to do their social media. I'm like, I'll come shoot it and I'll give you some prompts, dude. Real estate. You could just talk to me. And then they're like, I need you to prep me with questions. I started a podcast. I've done two. Everybody's like, I need to know the questions beforehand. And I'm more of an off the cuff person, but I see people obsessing about this. So that's what I would say to other marketing companies. The way that you could support us is come up with some of those questions to lower their anxiety and then reach out to them, set a date, and get it started.
That makes complete sense. My retail experience was selling swimming pools and hot tubs and, had, again, hundreds,
That's a
I
large
had
ticket
dozens
item.
of conversations. Those were amazing, but I also love the fact that not a single person came into my store that didn't wanna be there. they
Yeah.
wanted a
Nobody
swimming pool or a
browses
hot
that on the
tub.
weekend.
Maybe not mine, that's right, but they didn't wake up, "Oh, I gotta buy a swimming pool today." So, these were
Nobody
fun
browses
conversations.
flooring either. Not in a boutique store like mine. Like, maybe they,
Right?
happenstance through, an aisle in a big box store, but, yeah, they come in here to buy and because they need one. You're right.
Yeah, yeah. So, last question, Lisa, I'm just wondering, are there any resources or thought leaders that you turn to that have helped you kind of formulate your approach or keep up to date with changes in social media and so on?
Oh, it's so important to have a team to do that. I have like 5 marketing teams. So I have the people that host my website and have interactive visualizers and SEO, Google ad teams, a Google specialist that runs my YouTube channel, and then this social media team. So I am connected many times a month with several teams of people that are on the cutting edge. And there are things. They're like, you need to hold the camera this way, you need to hold the camera this way. You need it to be 15 seconds, 30 seconds, 2 minutes. Google's looking for 15 minutes. Made that once. They're constantly changing their algorithms and their parameters of what they're looking for. They're looking for blogs. Now they're looking for videos. They're looking for a carousel of changing. So it is super relevant for you to know what Google algorithm is looking for right now, and then change your website and your YouTube. They're looking for thumbnails. You can't have your face like at the beginning of the video anymore. You need to have a thumbnail. So those things are really important, and somebody else needs to tell me that because I am not late at night Googling what Google needs from me. So, like, there are people that are experts in that, and you just need to align yourself with a good team. And then in the 30 minutes that I give that person, they're going, this is what they want from us right now. And then I create that content and I shoot it out. And I've been doing this for over 5 years, probably closer to 10 with all of these marketing teams, super sophisticated companies like Broadloom that are, tech companies. So I do see that it's changed over time. And I do see that there is no way I'm going to do that. I have a job. I have a full time plus job doing things that have nothing to do with the internet. So it's align yourself with a team.
Yeah, 100%. Find those people that you can lean on for that kind of guidance. Lisa, you've been absolutely fascinating. This has been such an important interview. Thank you. For folks who want to connect with you, they want to follow you, they want to see the kind of work you're putting out there on the socials, where should they go?
Yeah. Well, to check out that Instagram we're talking about is Geneva Flooring One is my Instagram handle. And Lisa at genevaflooring.com is my email. I'm always open to networking, connections, questions. I'm just really curious in general and open to, working with people and cross branding and all of that. Genevaflooring.com is my website. You can check out all the cool stuff I've done there. Those are good places to start.
Fantastic. That's all the time we've got for today, friends. But don't forget to find the Social Pulse Podcast Retail Edition on Apple and drop us a review. We'd love to know what you think. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, everyone, for listening. We will have all those links that everything that I mentioned in the show notes down below. Thank you for listening to another episode of Social Pulse Podcast Retail Edition, hosted by Mike Alton and powered by AgoraPulse, the #1 rated social media management solution, which you can learn more about at agorapulse.com. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe on your favorite podcast player and be sure to leave us a review. Your feedback is important to us.